and thank you. My name is Gloria Chapman, and I am proud to serve as a director for the Office of Partnership Districts here at the Michigan Department of Education, and I am pleased to introduce today's presenters. Dr. Renee Garcia, who has had 34 years in public education, including serving as a teacher, elementary principal, assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, and a superintendent. Much of this time was serving communities that demonstrated great strength and brilliance while facing the challenges associated with high poverty. She witnessed systematic injustices in funding and systems that compelled her to work to bring opportunities to children and communities that face the greatest barriers. As a director of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the Michigan Department of Education, Renee is honored to work alongside districts, ISDs, and professional organizations toward access, fairness, and belongings for Michigan's rich variety of students. We also have Ms. Shannon Rockett. She is a native and alumnus of the Benton Harbor Area School District. Ms. Rockett earned her Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education and Master of Arts in Education Leadership, Principalship from Western Michigan University. Ms. Rockett has over 15 years of teaching and administrative experience and has held professional roles within the Benton Harbor Area School District, such as mentor, tutor, coordinator for the SMART tutoring program for first through eighth grade, assistant principal, new tech director for Benton Harbor High School's career and technical education director, district, family, and community engagement coordinator, and is currently the elementary principal for grades first, second, and third at Martin Luther King of King Elementary. Ms. Rockett has a great passion for promoting and ensuring and a positive influence on the lives and support of the children that she works with daily. Ms. Rockett's vision is clear. We believe that every child will attain their dreams through a high quality education, and she is committed to ensuring that vision becomes reality for every student in her care. Dr. Kelvin Butts is a graduate of Baldwin County Public Schools. He began his undergrad studies at Morehouse College and later graduated from Georgia College and State University, where he earned 2 bachelor degrees in biology and psychology in 1997. He later earned his Master of Arts from Troy State University in 2005 and his PhD from Capella University in 2013. Dr. Butts began his career teaching anatomy, physiology, and biology in 1999 in Baldwin County Schools. In August 2020, Dr. Butts began as principal of the Fairplain Middle School in Benton Harbor, Michigan. He later was selected as interim superintendent. Dr. Butts served as interim superintendent until July 1st of 2022, when he was appointed superintendent of Benton Harbor Area Schools. Under the leadership of Dr. Butts, Benton Harbor Area Schools has made tremendous progress toward the identified goals of his district. The Michigan Department of Education has worked with Benton Harbor Area Schools on a collaborative literacy effort to install and instruct from diverse classroom libraries. This multi-year effort included students, staff, families, and community members. During part one of this webinar series today, we will share the process used to select books and install libraries within the community. Without further delay, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Garcia, Ms. Roquette, and Dr. Butts into today's webinar. Welcome and thank you.
Hello, thank you, Gloria, and thank you to the participants who have joined us today as we talk about creating libraries full of mirror and window books for students. The efforts we will be sharing today primarily align with Goal 2 from Michigan's Top 10 Strategic Education Plan, Improve Early Literacy Achievement. At the Michigan Department of Education, we use the term diversity to mean differences in students, families, educators, and programs, differences that we believe are a richness, not a stigma. We use the term inclusion to refer to environments that are welcoming and that create a sense of belonging. And we use the term equity to mean fairness and access. We work to ensure that students have fair opportunities and access to education and resources. Diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts do not limit who can participate. They broaden the scope of work to add value for all. We want to start by sharing a bit about our personal experiences with seeing ourselves in literature, history, and our educators as we were coming up. So I'm going to start and share that as I came up through my education, I had the opportunity to see myself often. I identified with each of my first 5 teachers, kindergarten through 4th grade, in both gender and ethnicity. In fact, it was in these early years that I became inspired and determined to be a teacher, just like my first grade teacher, Ms. Sandra. Additionally, I recall loving to find a quiet, comfy place to read about my favorite book character, Pippi Longstocking. I wanted to be her, to demonstrate her strength both physically and in character. I tried to follow her example of kindness, fairness, and acceptance. In fact, I even dressed up like her at Halloween with freckles and braids, complete with pieces of hangers in the middle of them so that they would bend up, just like Pippi's. When I think of early learning in history, I saw myself as none other than Betsy Ross. I even taught myself to sew. I never questioned that I belonged in the educational setting. Almost everywhere I looked, I saw myself reflected and I could imagine my future self. And so now we're going to go to Principal Roquette to share a little bit about her early experiences.
So my experience coming up, I was raised by a teacher and come from a family of educators on both sides of my family, both on my father's side and my mother's side. So the love of reading was developed early with me. We would take weekly trips to the library, and for no less than an hour, my mother would say, "Okay, go and get your books, read, allow us that time to be around literature and audiobooks." And so again, at an early age, I learned to love to read to the point where I remember my mother telling me that I was very young and I had a book at the kitchen table and it was dessert time. And there was a choice that was given to me. I could either eat my bowl of ice cream or I could read my book, but I couldn't do both. And so the choice was push the ice cream away. That was the love I had for reading. And so, again, that journey continued on that as I grew up, I was voracious for every type of literature, especially Greek mythologies, fantasies, anything that brought in. I do, however, remember the first time I remember meeting myself in literature. And it was with the story Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters. And it's a story regarding a king who sends his daughters. A princess said, "I want to meet, I'm looking for my next wife." who will be the queen of of our land. And so the daughters begin to walk their path. And along the way, the first daughter, she's a bit mean. She's not kind to strangers. And so the second daughter follows that same suit. The last daughter was kind. And as she walked along, she was kind to the little boy. She was kind to the old woman. She shared her food. She shared her time. And so in that story, I saw not only myself, because it was an African folktale, I saw myself as, oh, I'm a beautiful Black princess, but I also saw a window into another culture. And so I got to see outside of my community what a country and how they did things when it came to stories and fables. And so that was a journey that I continue on through even today. I look for what can connect not only to myself as a mirror, but also act as a window to other lands. And now I'll pass on to Dr. Butts.
Hello, I'm Kelvin Butts. My path to my passion for reading was much different from Dr. Garcia's and Miss Rockett's. I was just an average young boy, curious about the world, and had no aspirations for reading. As a matter of fact, it was something that I knew I had to do, and I didn't do it well at first, to the fact that my mother had to step in. So just a little bit, a little background, single parent home. So again, my pathway is completely different from my other two presenters here. Single parent home, but my mom had valued education to its fullest. She dropped out in the 11th grade to take care of us, but her standards for reading was very high. I didn't know that, of course, at first. So for me, it really kind of set in when I was in first grade and I got promoted. But my mom didn't think that my reading skills were to her standards. So we went over to the school. She had a talk with the teacher, and I'm being the little boy I am, just curious and looking around, not knowing that she was putting me back in the first grade. So the next school year started. My friends weren't in my classroom. They were not present. So as a child I raised my hand and was like, what class am I in? And the teacher was like, you're in the first grade. And I was like, oh, no, there's a mistake. I'm supposed to be in the second grade with my friends. And she was like, no, you're in the right grade. So when I got home, it was like, I think they have me mixed up. And my mom turns and she looks at me and said, no, you're not reading to my standards, so you don't get a chance to move on. So it was then when I started to realize that I had to read for what I needed and not for what I wanted. So for me, to start to read for what I wanted really didn't occur until middle school. And mind you, up until then, I still haven't seen myself in the books that I was reading. It was in middle school when I think it was the Challenger back in the mid 80s, telling my age here, when it exploded. And I was, again, a curious boy. And I wanted to know what happened. All I know was we were watching, it was a big deal. It exploded. I wanted to know what happened later, what caused it, what was going on, right? So, but then we didn't have internet. I couldn't get on the computer and Google it. So I had to start to read because now I was reading for what I wanted. It was later on in high school that reading really piqued my interest. It was the book Lord of the Flies. And for me, that was really a scary book. Reason being, if you can't tell, I'm a Southern guy from Georgia, not from Michigan originally. And so below the Bible Belt, and we're reading this book in high school, and it's talking about Beelzebub, and it's giving these graphics about the pig's head on the stick. And so I'm having a conflict. I'm having an internal conflict here because we go to church and that's not what I'm learning in church. And am I going to go to hell for reading this book in high school? So my journey to the passion of reading was quite different. However, that passion of reading led to me ultimately being in the spot that I am today.
Thank you both for sharing your story. And, we all have different stories, as well as each person watching this webinar. Everybody has a different experience, and some people see themselves reflected, are excited by what they're reading, but some aren't. And we at the Michigan Department of Education believe that all children have the right to see themselves, to learn about others through their literature, their history, and their teachers. So that's what's really the essence behind this work. In fact, we base this work on the research of Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop. Dr. Sims Bishop coined the concept of books as windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. This video clip from Dr. Sims Bishop provides a quick reference point in her very own voice. So let's listen to what she has to say.
We need diverse books because we need books in which children can find themselves, see reflections of themselves. I wrote a piece, maybe 1990 it was published, which I called Mirrors, Windows, and Sliding Glass Doors. And I think that's really why children need to see themselves reflected, but books can also be windows, and so you can look through and see other worlds and see how they match up or don't match up to your own. But the sliding glass door allows you to enter that world as well. And so that's the reason that the diversity needs to go both ways. I mean, it's not just children who have been underrepresented and marginalized who need these books. It's also the children who always find their mirrors in the books and therefore get an exaggerated sense of their own self-worth and a false sense of what the world is like, because it's becoming more and more colorful and diverse as time goes on. So I think that's why.
Based on the previous slide, the work from Dr. Sims Bishop, the MDE, in collaboration with educators and specialists from across Michigan, developed this classroom libraries guidance document. Our team's gonna drop a link in the chat to where you can access this guidance document, but we'll be referring back to it as we continue through the next part of the presentation. So take it away, Dr. Butts.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I was having trouble turning everything back on. So adults need to walk the talk. We have to be the ones to do the modeling. We have to be the ones to set the tone for our students, for our kids at home. So for me, whenever I'm around the students and we are referencing something, I am reading their test scores. So as the principal at the middle school, when the kids would come in the office, and instead of just talking about discipline, if you would, I would ask them, what was your last test score? Or what book are you reading? And they would ask me sometimes, what are you reading? Well, I'm reading something technical. Mine is technical reading for running the school. When they come up to the office now, if I have a student representative in, I'm reading some technical stuff about the district, or I'm reading something, and I will share with them, okay, I'm reading this because this is how it will affect you. These policies will affect you. One of the biggest things, when I had some of the students that come up to read was about the cell phone policy when we rolled that out. and to get their input. And then they started to go out and read about other school districts. And it kind of changed their narrative of what not having phones during the school day would look like. And it's amazing how when they start to read just the smaller things, their passion kind of, it sparks something in them, and they start to want to read and do other things as we model for them. Coming up, you'll see how we actually started with our process of the many diverse libraries on the very next slide.
I liked reading, I grew to love reading. Then I started to realize that the books that I read didn't look like a lot of my kids. I thought that the books should look more like all of our children, not just some of our children. You know, in this little book, Change Things, there are all these children who play different instruments. So she plays the guitar, and then she's got a friend. And as you get deeper in this book, you see more and more different children.
So Mom, that looks like me.
Your superintendent, Dr. Butts, and a lot of the educators in Benton Harbor Area Schools they created little libraries for you. Turn around, boys and girls. In that back corner, there are 100 books. And those 100 books are for you to enjoy between now and the end of the school year. Libraries are very important. We wanted to bring the library to you. I liked reading.
So as you can see in that video, it was very touching. It was very heartfelt. You heard the little girl in the background say, "She looks like me." So that was her first time actually seeing herself in the book. And it was amazing because she had a ponytail in her head. And when she saw the little girl in the book, excuse me, it was an aha moment that, oh, wow. And that's when you heard her say, "She looks like me." On this slide, what you see is we had an open house, a back to school open house. And it was amazing because I had students coming up to me to ask at the secondary level, why don't we have many diverse libraries in our classroom? So it was quite obvious that the interest was sparked at the elementary level, and their siblings were coming home with books or telling them about their libraries that they had in their classrooms. And so I was getting the question, are we going to get those in our classrooms? So now it was kind of on me to make sure that as we move forward, that we get those same types of setups at the secondary level, so we can increase our reading across the board, not just in the elementary, because now what we've done is we sparked a fire, if you would, in our secondary level kids as well. So with this, we spark the level of reading, but we also have to pay for it, right? So with this, what I was strategically able to do was braid different funding for those libraries. So at first, I thought we were going to put a many diverse library in one classroom. Little did I know we were going to do all of the elementary classrooms throughout the district. So I had to get really creative. We use RAG funds, which are Regional Assistant Grant Funds that we were awarded through our ISD. We use My CLSD grant, and we use ESSER funds. So we braided those funds together and made sure that, we did the backside. I won't go into the technical part. I've served many roles here, so I was very instrumental and hands-on in the whole process. including the building, as you saw in the earlier video. But we engage families and students in the community, and in a few minutes, Ms. Shannon will talk about how she was able to do that portion. But we did a whole selection of the furniture, the accessories. We let the teachers and the students and the community come in and get involved in that process. So it didn't look as if we were doing something to the students, the teachers, and the community. My mantra has always been and will always be, I don't want to do anything to you. I want to do something with you.
Yes, and as Dr. Butt said, this was a collaborative effort. And within that effort, it was an intentionality to make sure that the most important voices were at the table and were being heard. Again, we wanted to work with our stakeholders, our teachers, our students, our families, our community. And so the very first thing we did was we went with the teachers because they had that direct, relationship with our students and our children and said, hey, what is it that you think needs to be in your classrooms that will be a mirror and a window for your children? You engage with them, them, their ups, their downs, their likes, their dislikes. You've got a flavor of their personalities now. So what will enhance them being interested in igniting that interest in reading and that love for reading that will be perpetuated with the books that you choose? And so again, we started with the teachers, and we had them actually look through the books themselves. If the teachers are interested in the subject, if their teachers are interested in the literature, then that passion flows authentically when they're teaching that information and sharing that knowledge and that love with their children. And so what we did was we made we did a plan. We were very strategic in our plan and setting up opportunities for the school as well as the community, the parents, to come and look at the books. We have throughout the year, the school, Martin Luther King, has multiple literacy nights. And so that was a way for our families to come in and just authentically look at the books and rate them. Say, oh, I would like my children to have this book in the classroom. We gave that same opportunity to the teachers. They were able to rate and say, I want these books in my classroom, my diverse classroom library. We gave the opportunity to the community as well. We have them come in and again, rate. What are some of the windows and mirrors that we want to make sure that are exposing our students to everything that our global world has for them? Because again, we want our students to be prepared for that global competition. And in order to do that, they have to know their competition. And so in order to do that, having those windows to give them that opportunity to say, oh, I know about this culture. Again, igniting that spark is what we wanted to make sure leads them to success.
So here you will see when we started to get all of our materials in, it was, again, it was much more than what I expected, I'll just say the least. We started to get all these boxes, the bean bags, the books, the bookshelves, and you see where we used the high school as our staging ground, and we were packing out each part of it as we were getting things in. Here you see where we were actually unpacking the books using office space, cafeteria space, but it was amazing to have MDE to partner with us and to send half their office at one point down to help stamp books. It was MDE, it was our local RISA, Barry and RISA, and our staff to start stamping books, putting the books in the right selection, right choices, right areas for the different classrooms. And it was just an all hands on deck approach for this culminating project. And here you see where we were actually in the rooms. We were working, we were in the different schools, we were working, we were putting the things together. So we did this over spring break. Everyone was gone, teachers, students. So central office, of course, we work all year, right? Very rarely take, we get our small moments to take vacations. So everyone was gone. We were putting out the furniture, going through, making sure that each of the classrooms had what they needed and that they were, for the most part, uniform in each classroom. So it was a wonderful experience of what we did and how we were able to just get the things together. And so it was a great experience on the way we did things. And so what I'll do is I'll skip that next slide, and if we can, we'll come back to it.
But then I
And so there's intentionality with the diverse classroom libraries, because again, we're looking at instructing our students, giving them another way to gain those literacy skills that are so essential to them being successful as they go through their educational career. One of those skills is, again, phonemic awareness, phonological awareness. Those things are all braided into that, where we wanted to make sure that even though they have their basal readers and they have those programs, again, students care and are interested and will do when they want to do. When they know that you care about them, they'll care about what you need to teach. And again, we wanted to, again, have that interest for those students who, like Dr. Butts, may not have started with a care and a love of literacy, such as myself and Renee, but giving them an opportunity to see themselves as they're being reflected, and then even exploring the world that they may not physically be able to get to yet. Again, we want to give them those opportunities while teaching them the fundamentals of reading, so that, again, they are applying those skills into their classwork as they go through the years, go through the day. And so this allowed teachers to also be intentional about the lessons they develop themselves and connect it to those diverse classroom libraries, because they have that intentionality in mind of saying, okay, with this specific book, for example, we used the book Black is a Rainbow. There were many things within that text that we were able to dive down deeper into, and not just vocabulary building, but even getting into the context, going into prose, getting into a lot more where students are able to question for themselves instead of being led by the teacher. Now they're leading with inquiry based and saying, okay, I have this question, and going and searching for themselves. We want to promote deep thinking. We wanted students being the ones who drove the lessons themselves, and then extending that out to saying, okay, what do you see here in the text within those books that you can connect to your real life world? And just making sure, again, the teachers have that community themselves to gain knowledge and expertise from one another. That's why it's important for those professional learning communities. You can bring your lesson, okay, what do you like? What don't you like? Having those critical conversations so that, again, we are refining those practices. So again, it is giving an intentionality to develop the skills for our students to be successful in their reading that translate into all of their subjects and achievement throughout the day. And so, again, this is about enjoyment. This is about getting in touch with our students. And as it was brought up before, if we as the adults model the behavior that we want our children to have, then they also will follow those same footsteps. They may pick a different book, but that's the point. They develop their own interests. They develop their own style of thinking But that's the point. They think, they have the interest, and now they have the books that will have them, that they have the opportunity to go and follow those in the path that they may lead to. It may lead them to being a scientist. It may lead them to be a politician. It may lead them to being a teacher. It may lead them to the medical field. It may lead them to being an entrepreneur. Whatever that pathway may be, we want to again be able to offer them the windows and the mirrors that will connect them to that love of literacy, that will again strengthen their thinking processes, a critical thinking, the problem solving, so that again they are successful in their choices as they go through their educational career.
Throughout the presentation, Dr. Butts, Principal Rockett, and I shared the deliberate work to help engage students in learning that is happening in Benton Harbor. Working to engage and excite students about learning is work that we must all do. At the heart of each student's learning success journey is the level and degree of their engagement. There's more competition than ever for children's time and attention, and therefore engagement is more important than ever. According to information provided by NAEP in 2023, the percentage of 13-year-old students who reported reading for fun almost every day was the lowest ever reported. Yet we know that reading for pleasure increases vocabulary and background knowledge, and children who read in their free time report that it helps them relax, learn, understand the view of others, and learn about their own and other cultures. On the next few slides, I'll share several resources that support educators to engage students with diverse literature. We will drop a link for each of these in the chat, and you can grab these links now if you'd like to. We will also send them in an email after today's webinar. As mentioned, MDE created a sample library as a starting point for this work. Many educators have asked about the books in the library, so we created a list. Since beginning this project, this list has grown, and if you're interested in seeing that list, you can use the link that's posted in the chat. The list contains diverse texts spanning from grades pre-K through 5 and showcases diversity in culture, ethnicity, geographic location, socioeconomic status, and more. Districts are encouraged to review and choose books using a process that includes staff, students, and families, and you can refer back to that Diverse Classroom Libraries document that we shared earlier for additional guidance. The Michigan Celebrates Black History Month webpage on the MDE website has multiple years of calendars that highlight diverse texts. The calendars include lesson plans that have been submitted by educators for educators since 2021. Additionally, the 2023 calendar will includes videos of high school students from the Michigan Department of Education Student Advisory Council who are sharing their favorite book and how it served as a mirror or window for them. This resource, celebrating our authors of color in their works of literature, was written in conjunction with the Library of Michigan, the MDE, and our tribal partners. This document is divided by grade span from preschool through 12th grade. Each entry includes a title from the author's body of work and a short statement about the author. The document features a variety of Michigan authors indicated by the image of the state of Michigan as seen on the screen. The Equity and Literacy Guidance document is an MDE advisory resource for educators in Michigan. The document is divided into 5 sections as seen on this slide. The guide that guides districts as to how they might use evidence-based literacy strategies to improve access to and proficiency in literacy, in addition to continuing to foster student engagement. The final resource that we would like to share today is the Champions for Literacy in Michigan Book Reviews webpage. Accessing this link will lead to a compilation of short interviews featuring Michigan literacy advocates who share excerpts from their favorite texts and reflect on how to use the text within the home or school environment. And Missy, I know you're running the show for us. You've done a great job. Would you mind backing us up to that last video? Because we would love to share a little bit more of the actual installation. So it's slide 18. There you go. Thank you. And Dr. Butts, I'm sorry, Missy. Dr. Butts, do you want to set this up? I know this is your team's production.
Sure. This was Dr. Rice. When he first came in, we were kicking off the many diverse libraries. So I set it up by saying, when the teachers and the students got back, the teachers were excited. It was almost Christmas after spring. The teachers were asking each other, did you get this book? Did you get this book? And the kids were kind of excited. So if you take time to watch this video, you can see the excitement as it starts.
That I read didn't look like a lot of my kids. And I thought that the book should look more like all of our children, not just some of our children, but all of our children. And what we've done today is we've put together a little library for every classroom in Benton Harbor.
Today we have had the pleasure to roll out diverse classroom libraries to all of our pre-kindergarten through 5th grade classrooms. So here at Martin Luther King Junior Elementary, our 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade classrooms have all received a diverse classroom library in their classrooms as they return from spring break.
We believe that children should see themselves and others in the books that they read, mirrors and windows, and that they should be able to enter other people's lives through the literature that they read, sliding glass doors. These are concepts that are from Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop, an Ohio State University professor who pushed the notion of children being able to see themselves in the literature that they read. It's not simply about the how of reading. We want children to be able to read better, but we also want children to be more engaged in the reading that they do, more interested in the reading that they do, because the reality is that the more children read, the better that they will read, the more fluent they will become, the more vocabulary they will pick up, the more knowledge they will develop, which becomes prior knowledge as you attack each new text.
This is so important because it's a reflection of mirrors, windows, and sliding doors. And what I mean by that, the mirror, you see yourself in the book. As you heard earlier, one of the students said, that looks like me. The windows, the possibilities that are out there, it opens doors to just beyond your imagination. The sliding doors, being able to walk into the opportunity that being able to read affords you.
I think the joy and the excitement has been the key features of the day. Hearing the children get excited about reading new books, watching when Dr. Rice was reading a book to some of the children, there was a little girl who said, "Ah, that looks just like me." And I got a chance to talk to her afterwards, and she shared how the character in the story reminded her of herself and her little sister. So it's an enthusiasm and a joy, which is what we want. We want to build that excitement about reading so that children will get more engaged in the books, because the more they read, the better readers they'll be.
I think there's a point of pride that comes from being part of the district and being able to deliver this for our students. It really has been a hard lift for the district to make sure that we deliver this, because it's going into over 32 different classrooms across the district. But at the same time, we've had a large amount of support and help from, I think right now I've got like 8 different agencies kind of off the top of my head that have all lended, countless hours to be able to make sure that we were able to make this work for our kids.
The goal was to make sure that we opened our many diverse libraries, and from what I can see, it was a true success. Our students are engaged to come back into the classroom from spring break. I love the look of surprise when they first walked into the classroom, and some of the kids were kind of awestruck at what they saw when they came in, so it was really interesting to see.
He's playing a tuba, and as you get deeper in this book,
You see more and more different children. The literature 50 years ago when I was coming up was much less diverse. It was much more homogeneous. I saw myself in the books that I read all the time. I didn't necessarily see other children from other cultures. And the power of that is not only for young people to experience themselves in their literature, and for all young people to be able to periodically see themselves in their literature, but also to see other people in their literature, and to be able to use literature to enter into the worlds of other young people. So you're black, you're white, you're Hispanic, you're polka-dotted, you're striped, it doesn't matter. You're a migrant, you're an immigrant, you're homeless, you're a youth in foster care, you're a rich child, you're a poor child, you're a child that is engaged in sports, you're a child that's not engaged in sports but engaged in art. All of these experiences are powerful experiences. They all deserve to be seen and appreciated in literature. And to see yourself in your literature is to be validated, is to be affirmed, is to be more excited about what you might read in the future.
Do you two want a book?
Here in Benton Harbor, we have a high population of African American students that we serve, as well as other populations of people that we serve. But we want to ensure that the books that we reflect have that representation of who we are serving in our community. You know, so we want to highlight diversity. We want to highlight people of African descent. We want to highlight Hispanic descent, Asian, you know, people that would be considered minorities in our country. We want to highlight them too because they matter as well.
It brings about understanding, and when you understand more, your relationships change. So this for me and this for them will be a game changer for the generations to come.
This book just screams, read me.
So now they get a chance to understand why there are differences. What's the difference between skin color, skin tone, religion, cultures. So this is for the African American kids to read about the Caucasian culture or the Hispanic culture or the African culture, the Asian culture, Indian culture, and for the Caucasian kid to read about all the different cultures. It's a learning experience. And as we all know, kids are not born prejudiced. They're born pure. They're taught prejudice. So now, with these many diverse libraries, they will be taught understanding through reading.
All right, thank you. I think we are ready for the last slide and for Katie to help us out if there's any questions in the last couple minutes here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Garcia and Dr. Butts and Principal Roquette for taking the time to share your thoughts and your knowledge. Dr. Butts and Principal Roquette, we have just a couple minutes here to ask and answer some questions from today's audience, if that's okay with you. I'm gonna wait till you're both, there you go. Want to make sure you're both available. Question number 1, as a former middle school teacher and now about to have my master's in library science, what supports did teachers receive to organize their classroom libraries and keep track of their books?
You want me to take that, Ms. Shannon? Okay, so first of all, there was training that was given through MDE, and a curriculum that we had to go with those books. And so with that training, we were making sure that we created a calendar and a time of day. So we had to do our schedules as well for that. And as we go along, we continue the continued training and supports that the teachers would need.
Yeah, there were many staff meetings that were held specifically for MDE to come and talk with the teachers. And then, as you saw before, the teachers did not have to, that heavy lift of even organizing the books and, you know, setting that space up in their room. They didn't have to do that. They were actually able to step into their diverse libraries already ready for them to share out for their students. And so that was the support we wanted to make sure that the things that they did not have to deal with, they did not have to do.
Well, thank you so much for that. I had the personal pleasure of being a part of this project the whole time, from stamping the books to being there when the kids came in, and it was the most beautiful thing ever. And so this question is kind of timely that comes in next. Have you had any parents see the libraries? And if so, what has their feedback been?
Yes, we have had parents come in and they love them. Again, it is a way for them to have those conversations with their children about, oh, this is what it's like in our world. And our world is, it can be as small or as big as you expose your family to. And so having, I would say, a guiding tool to start and continue and give that pathway for those conversations, I believe was very endearing for them, and it helped a lot. We have multiple parent events throughout the year, and so they have had the opportunity to share in that from the beginning with our diverse classrooms.
Thank you for that. I'm ready for the next question.
Yes.
Okay. Are you considering a plan that does carry over to the middle school and high school?
So we are considering that. We are looking at, we're creating a budget now for next year and
Mhm.
making sure that we can try to, we'll see what MDE has in store for the secondary level. So what we're trying to do now is explore what does it look like. So, but part of that, what we've already done, we ordered book vending machines for all of our buildings. So for all of the elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school, we have book vending machines throughout the district and at our alternative school, so that we can inspire kids at all grade levels to start learning it. So we kind of tied. If for those of you, if there's an administrator on here to try to figure out how we're doing that, we're tying that in also with the PBIS at the secondary level.
Okay,
So that it's working.
great. I think we have time for one more. Taking into consideration the audience that's on with us today, which is administrators and educators, what is one piece of advice that you would give districts that are feeling inspired to take on a similar project?
As an administrator, figure out how many classes you want to do first. If you have a bigger district, I wouldn't advise doing all of your classes at once, but look at the scope of of what you want to do.
Mm.
It is doable. You just have to put your mind to it. At first, I thought it was going to be very hard, but it was amazing the amount of wantingness to help from the community to do this project. So when we got started, we all came in with the idea that it was going to take 3 days to do the entire district. We did it in 1 day. The next 2 days was just cleanup work.
Yeah.
So uh, it was amazing. Go ahead, Ms. Shannon.
I would advise be intentional about who owns it. You want to be strategic about everyone who is to be an owner of that diverse classroom library from start to finish. Again, you want everyone to feel that they are a part of the entire journey in some way, and that it wasn't done to them. And I know that for my staff and everyone who participated, and even our children, because again, they also had an opportunity to say, oh, this sounds interesting when it came to the book choices.
Mhm.
And so having them be a part of that process, their voice being heard, and then actually being considered in the decision-making process. And those that really meant something, and they owned it. It
Yeah.
became theirs. And that to me is, I say, one of the best pieces of advice I could give you.
Thank you so much. And again, being part of that work, I still get goosebumps and get teary-eyed every time I think about it. I was there when the little girl said, "That looks like me." And you cannot make those moments up, and you cannot replace them. You can only encourage them. So again, I thank you, Dr. Garcia and Ms. Roquette and Dr. Butts, for sharing your knowledge with us for today's webinar. Your work is so important to Michigan educators and leaders, and it truly supports literacy teaching and learning throughout Michigan classrooms. We sincerely appreciate you creating this presentation in support of our efforts at the Michigan Department of Education. I also want to take a moment to thank the MDE and the MyMTSS TA Center team for their work in moving the Diversity in Literature webinar series forward. And a big thank you to our attendees for listening and learning with our team throughout today's session. Dr. Rice reminds us that educators are literature advocates who know words and books matter, and we're proud to support the full range of our diverse 1.4 million plus students in Michigan public schools and help them navigate their increasingly diverse world. The diversity of Michigan's students compels educators to focus on both the how and the why of literacy, because words matter and voices too. To continue your literacy learning with us, please plan to join us on May 29th from 4 to 5 p.m. for part 2 of creating libraries full of mirror or window books for students with your community. And that will be presented by Dr. Renee Garcia, Cindy Green, and Jennifer Boykins. The registration link can be found in the chat. Please visit our MDE Literacy website professional learning page to access past webinars and view upcoming opportunities. And if you have any remaining questions that were not addressed today, please send all inquiries to our mailbox and we will respond as soon as possible. Again, we thank you all for joining us today and the work that you do for Michigan's students. Please complete the feedback survey for this event that can be found in the chat and will be emailed to you when today's webinar is officially closed. We hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.